And we are back for another episode. As you can see, already lots of giggles here. Welcome to another episode of Finding Your Niche with Niche. I have the privilege and the honor of sitting next to somebody who just, when I think of this person, I smile because you're so entertaining. Mr. Daniel Dickey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, this always gets me because, the show is predicated off of somebody having a niche, a specific niche.
Okay.
And you have a lot of niches, right? And so you do a lot of things, from being an activist, brand ambassador. Are you an author yet? You have a book?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I have 2 books in my head.
Okay, so
yes.
Semi-author?
Soon to be.
Soon to be?
Published author.
Published author.
Yes, yeah.
You deal with marketing. You're an event curator. A singer, which I was very, very, doing my research, I was very excited about that aspect of you. So yeah, you're just super well-rounded. You refer to yourself as a Renaissance man, as you should, because you do so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that being said, though, with all the different niches that you do.
I like that.
Thank you.
That worked, America.
Which one is your favorite?
Honestly, and so I think that I'm actually, I think a part of even my activism is to go against those streams of thought, because when I look at us as a people, we derive from the people who literally created every fucking thing. Mm-hmm. And so when we were creating everything, we weren't in these specialized positions. Like, we were already mothers, we were already fathers, we were already pillars in our community, we were already connectors, we were already healers, we were already helpful, we were already more connected, and we were also creating science and creating math and creating agriculture and creating the building blocks of medicine and astronomy and all of those things. And so I really just kind of feel like just the position of those kinds of streams limit our capacity. Like, I really think that Black people in America are operating at about 40% of what we're truly capable of. I think because of some of those specializations and just how it's very similar to, I look at what it meant like to have been a slave. It's like, I'm a blacksmith, so I'm gonna spend my day being a blacksmith. I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna take care of my family, I'm gonna take care of my, maybe have an extracurricular activity, and then I'm gonna go to sleep and do that again. And so what I figured out was how to get paid to be myself.
Okay.
And I'm a very whole human. And so just if I was involved, if I showed up, you should probably pay me. You know what I'm saying? So
I forgot to say, so you'll see throughout this interview, Daniel's confidence is on 1,000.
Godfidence. Yes, because I understand my source very clearly.
Okay.
Yes, very, very aware of my source.
Okay, and that's actually something that I was going to ask you too, because, and I'm glad you answered it, because I was going to ask, like, where'd you attribute this aura, this really like abundant life of the party kind of vibe, and so you're saying that you get that from God.
Well, yeah, definitely. And then my family, I think acts of service is like a very primary love language in my family. You show up to pull up at my parents' house, and my dad's the kind of guy, and it could be 9:00 at night, and he could be in his, I'm about to shut this down clothes, but he might still offer to fry you a fish.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And getting a fresh fish, you know what I'm saying, fried for you at somebody's crib at 9, I'm lit. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like so, I'm from a family of singers and preachers and civil rights activists. And so with that, that's a bunch of people who understand that their life is bigger than them and it's in service to others. So I think that's really primarily where it comes from. And then at the end of the day, for me, I understand my personality type. I'm not a thermometer personality type. I'm not somebody who just knows the temperature. I understand that I know the temperature, but I have the power to change it in the environments that I'm in.
Yeah.
So,
Sure. And so with you kind of talking a little bit about your upbringing, your childhood, what would you say have been some significant things that happened in your past that have contributed to who you are today?
Well, I think really figuring out that I wanted to get paid to be myself, like not associated with any one thing that I do, but just when Kanye said, my presence is a present, like, you're welcome. Like, I came, you're welcome. You know what I'm saying? But so understanding that, I think was a key for me. I think when I look throughout my life, one thing that I've noticed is how leadership was always something that was very much next to me. It was something that like leaders, extraordinary leaders, some of the most extraordinary leaders of our time have met me and interacted with me and said, you know what? I like that kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make sure that that kid knows what I'm up to. And so I think that's been something that's very pivotal for me.
What is it that you think people like about you, though? What would you call that?
I mean, what's not to like? It's, probably an easier question. But, I mean,
I'm just going to get up. Daniel's going to interview himself.
Yes,
apparently.
thanks. I was hoping you were going to do that. Thank you. Look, you're changing the show. Look, but I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, like, I mean, I'm a lighthearted. I'm very resourceful. I'm thoughtful. I'm mentally agile, emotionally mature, and I think those are some of the things. But I've never really honestly thought about it. I'm just grateful for it. Like, I don't ever try to. I'm not trying to figure out those things. Like, I'm not trying to figure out what you love about me. I'm just glad that you do love whatever the things are.
Sure.
Like, because that's not a place I want to spend my time thinking.
Yeah.
Like, so.
I think that's powerful, kind of what you're saying too, being able to be in a position where you can kind of get paid to be yourself. But how does if somebody wanted to emulate that, right? How do you actually go about doing that?
Well, I think for me, the first part of it is being the Renaissance man, being someone that is versed and knowledgeable and capable across multiple fields and across multiple, realms and things. And so I think that's the first part, like I went to college on vocal scholarship, but I majored in mass communications and I minored in marketing. For me in high school, one of my first jobs, I learned how to cook. Working at Waffle House as a junior in high school. Yeah. And so now so it wasn't like I grew up playing soccer and baseball and basketball. Yeah. So it wasn't really like me trying to be a Renaissance man. It's just when I look over my life, I'm skilled and capable across a lot of different things. So I think one of the first things is to get your skills up, like get the things that you know how to do into a place that makes you valuable. And it's like, and so I think that was the first part for me, and that was unconscious. Yeah. And so then I think the second part is being in an awareness and in an ownership of who you truly are. Because I think the first part for me, it was alignment. And so a lot of times, you have people when they're chasing the bag, they're chasing their dreams, but I'm not chasing anything, because at the end of the day, when you're chasing something, it's running away from you, and so I'm not chasing my dreams. I don't chase checks. I don't chase anything. And so I think when you align, you don't really have to do that.
Yeah. What do you think? I think that's really good. What do you think about people who say kind of what's the phrase? I think it's jack of all trades, master of none. Okay. And so when you do a lot of different things, I know you can learn how to be kind of skilled at them, but how do you get to the point? Is there a reality that because you're doing so many different things, you cannot master one thing?
Well, see, I think that just the human experience, I think that we've kind of gotten clouded as to what an authentic human experience is. Because to me, a human experience is understanding that I have gifts and understanding that you have gifts that are different from my gifts. And so if you bring your gifts to the table and I bring my gifts to the table, we can solve a lot more problems. We can do a lot more things. And I think that goes back to the alignment part. It's like, I think that we were all put on this earth to be the answers to each other's prayers. Okay, I like that. And so with that, it's like, I know that there's things with me just as a man. It's like, there's desire and then there's ability. It's like, yeah, I know how to cut the grass. I know how to do a lot of things. But is that the best use of my time? If my time at this point is $200 an hour, like I can pay a kid $20 to cut the grass and I'm still at 180. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And that's closer to my actual value in a moment. And so I think that's what I would say about the jack of all trades. Well, first of all, I have a problem with absolutes. Okay. Because an absolute will never be a fact. All aren't doing anything. Everybody's not doing anything. You know what I'm saying? It'll always have to be a word that doesn't include 100% of anything. Sure. Because people aren't even investing 100% into anything. Yeah. So I think it's important for people to have skills, transferable skills, things that people can count on you to do. And the more things I can count on you to do, the less things I have to do. Yeah. And I think that's the nature of what it means to have that beloved community that Martin Luther King talked about, you know what I'm saying, was when people brought their gifts to the table for the benefit of everyone else. And so I would say that I think that would be a key, is the first understanding that we are here for each other. I think we're in a space now where people are unapologetically selfish.
Yes.
People aren't committed to much of anything, and then I think people aren't pursuing greatness in an authentic way either.
Right.
Nowadays, people would rather just call themselves great,
Yes,
and
yes.
just still want all that comes with that. And I think greatness is a space that's earned and it's not given.
Yeah.
And so I would say that.
I think I want to touch on what you kind of were talking about skills, because I do think that's something that's kind of underrated. And you've been in the industry, really, especially the entertainment industry, running up on almost 2 decades or more now. So,
Sure.
What would you say, though? Because since you've been in it, you've been able to kind of put yourself in rooms based on your skills.
And my anointing and my favor. And yeah. So,
but when we think about the idea of just skills in itself, what would you say with like you being in the industry so long that you had to kind of like revisit as far as the skills since you've had so much longevity in the industry?
I don't feel like I had to revisit anything, because to me it's like there's certain things that I'm more interested in than other things, but the things that I'm not interested in, I pay people to do those things. And so it's like not a reinvention of me, it's a hiring of a 26-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's more of that. It's, you know, I've always had interns, I've always had college students around, so I kind of get to tap into what they're on and what they're up to, not because I'm on it, like, you know, like for instance, these Truly and those seltzer drinks, they're disgusting to me. Like, I don't understand how anybody loves them, but when you look at the Gen Z and the millennials, they're loving those things. And it's just like bad water to me, like, or a bad Sprite to me. So it's like, I don't necessarily have to come all the way down into those frequencies. I just need to make sure that I can tap in and have access to them. And so for me, because it was always about tapping in and being connected to culture and having access to those culture points, I can just always still just be myself in the space, you know? It's like one of my monikers is Yoda Miyagi.
Yoda Miyagi.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I understand that there's people coming up behind me and they have the force, if you will. They have the gifts, but they don't know how to use them as effectively as I do. And so I can teach them that and still tap into their skill set while teaching them how to be, you know, an extraordinary human being.
Right. And so with that being said, though, how would you define that? Because when I hear you say that, I think of you tapping into your skill of being a brand ambassador. What is a brand ambassador? Well,
so I think a brand ambassador wouldn't be necessarily how I would describe myself. I would describe myself more as a brand manager.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a brand ambassador is someone who shows up with a Finding Your Niche shirt on and is handing out flyers on behalf of your brand, and is making people follow you on social and those kinds of things. I think more so a brand manager is where I am, and my agency is actually a 360-degree brand management and strategy consulting agency.
Cool.
And so it's essentially, I've heard all kinds of things about it because I really kind of created this space. One of our agencies is the first of its kind. It's a 360-degree brand management and strategy consulting.
360-degree.
Because I'm a Renaissance man, so I not only can I help you get your business popping, I can help you be a better human being. You know what I'm saying? I can make sure that your brand has a holistic perspective to it. You're not just making money. Maybe I make sure that you're connected to social causes that resonate with you. You know, and those kinds of things. And so that's brand management for me. 360 brand management is a holistic management of everything that you're up to, you know? So we're gonna be, you know, I'm gonna be the reason why maybe you become a better tipper. That has nothing to do with you selling your software. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I would say that. So brand management opposed to brand ambassador. Like, I'm gonna hire brand ambassadors all the time. You know, and so so that would be kind of more so where I would say the difference is.
And I like that you were just talking about kind of social change and helping people to kind of do that, because you're big on activism yourself, you know, and helping to move the needle when it comes to the Black narrative, the Black experience. Where did that come from?
So one of my greatest mentors, his name is Kenny House, a Jewish Christian man.
Okay, shout out to Kenny.
Yeah, shout out to Kenny. Like, he brought me into an awareness of articulating and expressing my thoughts and expressing my feelings, and then also being someone who gave back. So for me, like, I was in soup kitchens, feeding the homeless and doing those kinds of things when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old. And so because it was something that I got into my heart and mind young, it never left. you know. And so it's like, so being someone who leaders have always, you know what I'm saying, taken a liking to and wanted to impart their wisdom into. And so I think, you know, you're told to that is to make sure that you are always passing that on.
Sure.
And I think effective leaders are servants. The most effective leaders, the best leaders that ever exist on the earth are servants first. And I think those are the leaders that it's easier to support. Those are the ones that it's easier to get around. It's easier for you to want to be around those kinds of people. And so I think that's where it came from for me, is seeing people without and still being able to find their smile and those kinds of things, and wanting to be a part of that for more people, because we understand as Black people, this country is systemically put us in a place of poverty and in a place of redlining and in a place of lack.
Sure.
And so the only way that we're going to ever be able to upend that is through a level of unity and through a level of regard and service to each other. And so it's really understanding the real recipe for the unity that we need to be better as a people.
And I like that you're talking about that. I kind of want to stay on that topic for just a little bit.
I mean, it's your show.
Thank you. Wow. Probably the most humble thing you'll say.
No, I'm not humble at all.
No,
yes,
no,
I'm not even signing up to be humble.
Oh, okay,
In fact, I don't want you guys to be humble either. Like, yes, like it's like, I think for us, like, we're definitely Christ-centered people.
Sure.
And so I think we have some mystique around the word humble that shouldn't actually be applicable to who we are.
What
Because,
should it be called?
well, the word humble is defined, and this is almost pretty literally verbatim.
Okay.
It's defined as having or showing a low estimate of one's own importance and value. So having is showing a low or modest estimate of one's own importance and value. So what that word means, it sounds essentially as sleeping on yourself.
So what would you?
And so when you look at the definition of low self-esteem, it's very similar. So yes, so our oppressors want us to be humble. But why should we be that? We're the people who created every fucking thing.
Wow.
Like, our culture is the prevailing culture of everything that's happening in this country and in this world. And so why should we be humble? Who should be humble are these people in the office making all these stupid decisions on behalf of us as a country.
That part.
I think the senators should be humble.
That part.
You know what I'm saying? I think Donald Trump should be humble.
Yeah.
I think those are the people that should be humble.
Yeah.
I don't think that we should be humble in the
people
first
that
place.
are loud and wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I think gracious is a word that I would
Gracious.
put more in a space.
Okay.
I think authentic is something I think that I would want to put more into the space.
Okay.
True to yourself is something I would want to put more into the space. I don't want us to be humble.
Okay. Well, thank you for being gracious.
Yes, exactly.
I wanted to ask you. Okay, so you don't have any biological kids of your own?
Not yet.
Okay. So what is your thoughts on, not yet, okay, so what are your thoughts on the idea so far as it is today about leaving a legacy without leaving a legion?
I mean, I think that a legacy is a part of what you do with your life and with your time. You know, like my grandfathers, they were these two extraordinary Black men, and they both have their names on buildings. And so, you know, obviously they have us as their grandkids, but the building is still named after them. So I think that's a part of a legacy that doesn't have anything to do with the legion, if you will. But I think there should be both of those things. Because if you don't have people who understand who you are and have aspirations to walk in your footsteps, then what kind of legacy are you really even leaving?
Right.
You know, because I think we're supposed to be touching lives. We're supposed to be impacting the bottom line for the ways that people think and move and the things that they do. So I don't necessarily see where you can have a legacy without a legion.
That's good. And
somebody should be fucking with you. You know what I'm saying? And I think in what we're seeing now in our generation and in the generations above us, it's like when you look at who some of our next great Black voices are, it's like, you know, who are those people?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we're still Jesse Jacksoning. We're still Al Sharptoning.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm saying? But who are the people after them? You know what I'm saying? That we're calling. I mean, I feel like we have a Tamika Mallory in that space, but there's not a legion of high vibrating Black voices. You know what I'm saying? So
is that scary to you?
I don't think it's as scary to me as it is motivating for me, because I think that I've been uniquely qualified to be one of those voices. So I don't think it's scary. It's more of a like, yo, bro,
it's an observation.
Like, you have things to do, more things to do.
Yeah. Wow, that's so good. At the top of the show, we were kind of talking about you being the life of the party, very radiant in any room that you enter. And you've been privy to like be in a lot of really, really, really amazing rooms. Besides this room right now.
Well, yeah, the most extraordinary of them all.
Thank you. What has been your favorite room to be in? And with whom?
So I would say meeting Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
Yeah, like having a conversation with Stevie Wonder where Stevie Wonder said my name, I shook his hand.
Oh, wow.
His daughter introduced me to him, and she told him that I was a Renaissance man and an extraordinary singer. So to have that said about me to Stevie Wonder with Stevie Wonder
In person.
top 3, not 3 energy. Yeah, I think being at Barack Obama's first inauguration.
Wow.
That was, and
That's goosebumps. Every time I even just think about it, it's goosebumps.
Exactly. And so,
What a moment.
so I think those are cool. And I mean, but I'm somebody who believes in being present in every moment.
Yeah.
Like I'm right here with you right now. You know what I'm saying? But just something that happened kind of recently. I was at this sneaker ball, and at the sneaker ball, it was. I had that shit on, of course. You know what I'm saying? Look, and so I was at the sneaker ball, and it was a band that was performing, and then the surprise guest was Q Parker from 112.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so Q Parker is on stage singing 112 songs, and Q Parker calls me on stage to sing 112 songs with him at this sneaker ball. And so afterwards, they were like, "Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for 113." So being a member of 113 was, that was cool. But
cool.
in my life, I've been able to open as a vocalist for John Legend.
Wow.
I performed at NBA All-Star Weekend.
That is so cool.
And so it's just, there's a lot of them. But
Yeah.
the Stevie Wonder situation, that's easy.
pretty-
Yeah, top
that's
3, not
legendary.
3. Because I think to me, Stevie Wonder is the GOAT of music. Of all music, like not even just R&B. He's like the king of music as a whole. So
Really?
to meet him being one of my real idols, like somebody I have a real idolization of, because
Right.
I'm not that kind of person with people. It's really God, and then it's me.
Yeah.
Like I don't exalt people. Like
Gotcha.
you guys are cool. Yep. Shout out to you.
Yeah.
But
That was a big deal.
Yeah, it was.
Wow. And I want to ask you that too, because being like who you are, having these big moments, having these big impressions that you make on people when you come into a room, do you feel any kind of responsibility to always show up as Mr. Daniel Dickey, or do you feel like when your down days come, are you actually down, or do you figure out a way to kind of maneuver through that?
First of all, that's a great question. You should have a show. You know what I'm saying? Where you sit down and talk to people.
Yeah, I should. That's a good idea.
Yeah, see, and I'm not
Wow.
charging you for that. You know what I'm
Okay,
saying? Like,
yeah.
so for me, I came into a real level of awareness of who I was young. Like it really was around 12. And so because that happened for me really young,
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm the 12-year-old. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not 12. You know what I'm saying? But my mindset still has that youthful exuberance. I'm able to find my smile really easily through even the adversity. So I feel like because I'm myself, I'm always going to be myself, whether I'm inside or outside. I believe in balance. I think at some points you need to sit down
Yeah.
and chill and relax and not feel like you need to fill your calendar with activities and endeavors. But I'm myself even when I'm in hoop shorts and slides and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So
But I guess I'm more so, if you are having like a bad day,
yeah.
are you able to kind of communicate that, or is it kind of just like, I'm going to pretend that this isn't overcoming me? Or are you able to say like, you know what, this is not it. I'm not it.
So I'm honestly a person who cannot be overcome by a bad day, and so like the ways that I live my life, it's I think one of the reasons why people are so lifted when they're around me is because I govern myself through something I call the Kim principle.
The what principle?
The Kim principle.
Okay.
And that'll be one of my books.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it's my belief that if you are able to keep it moving forward positively and productively, no matter what comes your way in life, good things will always be on their way to you. It's like, we're always curating our own karma.
Yeah.
It's like, if we really believe that we reap what we sow, then if I know that that's what I'm sowing is a positive and productive mindset, even through adversity, then I know that something good has got to be on its way to me also.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I took a road trip to Essence, and on my road trip, one of my tires went flat. And so I was riding with one of my homeboys, Chase Freeman. Shout out to Chase Freeman, and
Chase.
shout out to the Milk and Cookies whole team. And he just was like, bro, I didn't even know the tire was flat because your energy never changed.
Yeah.
You know, but what I did was we stopped at a gas station and I saw my pressure go down. And I have the little thing that, you know, you can pump up your tire with, you know, your lighter with this little apparatus. And so I pumped it up. And so then when I got back to get ready to get on the road, I noticed that my pressure was coming down again. And I was in the middle of nowhere. So what I did was I looked up used tire places.
Wow.
And I just drove to one, you know what I'm saying? And it was...
You didn't make a big deal about it.
I mean, at the end of the day, it forward positively and productively. And so because that's where I am, I'm not going to have a bad day. I might have a bad hour.
Yeah.
I might have a bad few minutes, but my anger is expensive.
I think
you know what I'm saying?
I think that's really kind of easier said than done. Because
of course it is.
Life happens.
It is.
So what would you say, like, practically is the actual tool that people need to do?
I mean, I think the practical tool is that mindset. Because at the end of the day, when people get flustered and angry, they become still and they can't solve. And then anytime you become still, you allow your things to pile up on you.
Yeah.
But in life, it's harder to hit a moving target. And I think it's harder to hit a moving target. And I think God blesses us on our way somewhere.
Yes.
So I think, so it's like, nothing about me being mad about my flat tire is going to get me to New Orleans faster.
Right.
Nothing about me banging on anything, cursing, feeling anger, calling somebody needing to vent. None of that is going to get a new tire on my car. And so that's why it's positive and it's productive. You know what I'm saying? And so it's those two together, of course, because being positive is very much a easier said than done thing. But even if I'm not feeling all that positive, I'm still going to be productive because I have other shit to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so for me, that's how I don't get lost in that.
What has been, what would you say has been the hardest thing that you had to overcome?
I think a key thing for me that happened moving to Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta, and it was very much on a bit of a whim.
Okay.
You know, there was some divinity associated with it. But I essentially moved back to my hometown to work on my relationship with my dad.
Gotcha.
You know, my parents have been together my whole life, but my dad was very much the standard black dad. He was a provider. He was a disciplinarian. I don't have any recollection of my dad ever lying to me about anything, but he was also not very emotionally nurturing. He didn't create those kinds of spaces for me to be a whole man.
Yeah.
And I see, of course, that's a void that most men are experiencing. And so I wasn't really feeling him all like that because I'm very empathic, intuitive, all those kinds of things. And I got this guy who's essentially a work truck. You know what I'm saying? And so I moved back to North Carolina, to my hometown when I graduated college, really specifically to work on my relationship with my dad. And so I was there for like 2 years after college. I took a sabbatical year, which is, people can say they took a sabbatical year. Look, and so I traveled, I did missions all across the country during that year, and I had a trivial job at TJ Maxx. It was just, they loved when I came to work, but it was very like, yeah, I'll see you on Saturday and Sunday kind of energy. This Saturday and Sunday, but not next one or the next one. But it was, when I felt that release with my relationship with him, I had $10,000 and I had a place to stay. And so I moved to Atlanta, and for those first 3 months, I was just outside. Okay. Outside. Yeah, definitely. You know, and so I moved in May of 2007, and I didn't even start looking for a job until August.
Wow.
And so then I started working, because before I moved here, I was working more in banking and finance. And so I got a job at BB&T. And so I worked there for close to a year, but 2007, 2008, that was the mortgage crisis.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And so I lost my job at BB&T, and then I was just out here applying for jobs, real regular, like, I guess I'm supposed to buckle down and start applying for jobs. And so I did that, and I was going on a lot of dummy mission jobs, you know, the career builder and all of that kind of stuff like that. And it was a lot of dummy missions. And during that time, I was just going lower and lower. My finances were just dwindling down. And so it got to a place where I was getting like threatening letters about my car being repossessed and all those different things. And so I called my parents, and, you know, my dad definitely had the money, okay? And I was like, bro, look, I don't call my dad bro. Daddy is actually what I call my dad. But I was like, bro, yeah, listen, I need like $4,000.
Yeah.
And my dad was essentially like, son, the only way I'm helping you is if you move back to North Carolina. And I knew that was not the move. And so at that point, one morning, it was like 4 a.m. or something like that in the morning, and there's this profuse knock on the door, and I go outside, and the repo people have my car up on the thing. Okay, and yes, and that car's name was the Silver Surfer.
Wow.
It was a Acura TL.
Okay.
And I go outside 4 a.m. like, you know, kind of, you know, what's going on, and it's like, yo, we're taking the car, you know, would you mind giving us the keys? And so, yeah, so I got my car repossessed. I'm like, credit cards maxed, all that kind of stuff like that. And so that was definitely like one of those real, like, you know.
I got to get myself together.
Yes, and figure it out. And so in that moment, I was able to be reminded of myself.
Okay.
Because every opportunity that ever came to me in my life came from my spirit and came from my aura and came from my favor. It wasn't going to apply for jobs. It was just being myself in moments and people wanting to give me a job, you know? And so I had to tap back into that. And so that was, I would say, was like a, you know, like just, you know, having your car repossessed, your credit cards maxed, your parents like, yo, bro.
When it's a
like,
lot of things at once.
Exactly.
When it compounds, it's just kind of like unbearable sometimes, and it feels like you're drowning.
Well, unbearable is, I think as long as you have life, you can bear. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, you know, like a couple of things we've talked about, and we talked about maybe where it could have been paralysis, but I think I don't see paralysis. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see paralysis in that moment. It was definitely, I had a couple of days where I was like, bro, like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I'm saying? And so I had that. But it was also just like, I didn't really come out of that in a way that was positive and productive until I reminded myself of who I actually am.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it was that.
Now, what would you say on the contrary? What would you say has been maybe something that you look forward to the most, that you know, that you can foresee God doing in your future?
I look forward to share, but at this point, I'm more comfortable, and I'm looking forward to sharing more of myself with the world.
Okay.
Yeah, like.
In what way?
And just, I think my perspective is something that people can glean a lot from. And so it was like December 17th. I don't think I'll forget the day, but I'm in a meeting with one of my clients, Go-Go Party Bus. Shout out to Niecy Cooper. Hey, Niecy. And I'm in a meeting with her, and I get a call from Les Brown.
Wow.
And so Les Brown calls me, and he tells me that he wants me to be the next Les Brown. And he talked about his vision for me, and he was like, listen, son, the way that I see this, he was like, I see myself as Michael Jordan, and I see you as LeBron James.
Wow.
And so to have someone of that level take that kind of notice to me, and not because we hang out or any of those kinds of things, obviously just something about interacting with me in moments that weren't, hey, let's talk about how I'm going to be a next motivational speaker. That was never a conversation we ever had. Wow. And so for him to approach me with that energy kind of speaks to, I think, what that looks like. But I also have EP that I need to, you know,
EP.
so some music that needs to come out. I have a book that needs to come out. So honestly, and right now, so just lately, I have a camera, a whole film content team that kind of follows me around, and shout out to I Daydream Studios, and they're miking me, and they're just miking me live. And so I think that felt more, because I've been approached about reality TV shows and those kinds of things too. And I'm like, because, you know, I think reality TV is,
reality TV scripted now.
Well, and I think scripted, but I think also a major pollutant to our people. You know what I'm saying? I see it as there's a lot of pollution of our mindsets that comes from reality TV. But understanding, I guess somebody's got to bring balance to it.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of getting used to sharing myself in those ways. And so that's what I'm saying, like, you know, and so, but I'm like going back and we're looking at the content and I'm like seeing myself at a theater teaching. We have an alcohol sponsor. They hit me with liquor, but they didn't hit me with mixers or anything. So I'm like having to freestyle what we're going to make and then how we're going to theme it around the cast of this production. And I'm like watching myself do this and I'm like, you know what? This is interesting. Like, I'm like, you know, and so I guess I'm seeing what other people see. Like, you know, even, you know, from interviews that I'm doing live, I'm a bit more in the driver's seat to make sure that that happens a bit more nowadays, to share more of me. And so the feedback that I get from interviews, and it's like, people are like, you know what, we've seen you be, you know, the guy for a long time, but we don't know how you think. You know what I'm saying? We don't know what you're thinking about. We don't know your school of thought. We just know a lot of fly shit happens. And if we see you somewhere, it's probably going to be lit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But not knowing my school of thought and how I go about making these things happen. So just sharing more of that.
Yeah. Oprah asks a question that I just love.
Okay.
That I'm going to ask you right now.
Okay.
What lesson has taken you the longest to learn?
What lesson has it taken me the longest to learn? I think a part of this whole thing is, I think a lesson that I'm learning and still learning is that I don't want to be the dopest person that I never work with. You know, it's like we put a lot of time into a lot of things. But I've been a very selfless person on my journey. It's always been about serving others. But knowing all the gifts that are inside me and knowing that a lot of those are more so, they're more of the suppressed things. You know what I'm saying? I probably should have released an album already, or 3 or 7. You know what I'm saying? But I'm more so spending my time building other people's brands and helping other people actualize their dreams. So the lesson for me is for me not to be the dopest person I never work with. So that's a lesson for me that I think is I'm still in that learning.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the dopest people that I've been able to sit down on this show, finding your niche with. For people that want to maybe dabble in one of the niches that you have.
Okay.
And they're thinking about how they can actually find their footing.
Okay.
Let's say in the entertainment industry, for instance. What route should they go? What steps would you tell them?
Well, I would first say that in the entertainment industry, most of the meaningful things that you will ever work on in the entertainment industry, you're going to need to do for free. You know,
for how long?
I mean, I wouldn't put a time limit on it, but it's just like when you look at interning at, you know, the major radio stations and those kinds of things, those aren't paid opportunities. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, so you could go work somewhere where you get paid, but are you going to work with Big Tigger? Are you going to work with Kenny Burns? Are you going to interview literally the dopest people in our culture? Are you going to be able to do it at that level? And so
I think there's a lot of power in shadowing.
It is very much so, because how can you be a great person if you're not ever around greatness? Right. And so I think surrounding yourself with greatness, I think is a major key. But to entertainment especially, and because we're in a space now, there's so many things that I want us not to be doing that we're doing a lot of nowadays. Like, and so like right now, like one of those things to me, honestly, I think is entrepreneurship. Really? Yes. A very unpopular hot take. Yes, hot take, America. Yeah, because
newsflash.
Yes, yes.
Why do you say that?
Well, if you look at our oppressors and how they've always worked through our culture in like a string pulling kind of way, and they usually kind of use like a misdirection to lead us, to take us places. And so what they've done over generations is they have us in a very selfish place. And I think we already talked about it. Selfish, not committed, and not pursuing greatness. So if you have a bunch of people that are unapologetically selfish, they aren't pursuing greatness, and they aren't committed to anything, does that sound like successful entrepreneurs? That doesn't sound like successful anything. Yeah, anything. Exactly. So you're not going to be successful in romance. You're not going to be successful in business. Your family probably don't even fuck with you all the way for real. Okay? And so now you have a bunch of those people starting their own business. Yes. Okay? And so, yeah, and so that's a bunch of failure Okay,
Yeah.
really, most of these
Yeah.
businesses are failing. It's like when you look at even in the
I
body
think
of
just black people are so excited for ownership.
exactly, but at the end of the day, if you own something that's just yours and you don't employ any other people, your business to me is pointless in our culture. You know what I'm saying? Like the mission should be to have employees. The mission should be to use the revenue that you have to be a funding source for our community. And so this solopreneurship, energy
Yeah.
is not helpful to the collective of us. And so so now you have a bunch of people failing at something that they were probably not ever even positioned to be good at in the first place.
Yeah.
And so now that just creates a lot of anxiety. It's creating a lot of depression. And then on the other side of that coin, you look at what our counterparts and other ethnicities and cultures are doing. They're growing businesses to the point where they can leisurely fly off the fucking earth.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got the Virgin, you have Jeff Bezos. These guys are literally, they don't make airplanes. They're not NASA, but they make enough money to buy their own space shuttles
Yeah.
because they aren't doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that seems to be the way that we look at entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is mergers. It's having ownership in things that aren't just
Partnerships,
yours.
yeah.
And so if we can't build vertical companies because everyone wants to have their own company, it's like I'm sitting down with people and they're 19. They're like, yeah, I want to have my own company. And it's like, I need you to figure out how to work. First, I need you to figure out how to run a company, perhaps and it's not just
Yeah.
making a cool product or having something that people, being this, it's like, so coming into a communal space with each other is how we climb out of some of the oppressive states that we're in. And we'll never do that if everyone wants their own.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? Like just when we look at the church space, how there's a church on every corner of one block.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But none of the churches are really ingrained in that community where they are. And so there's just a lot of oxymoronic things happening in entrepreneurship. And so I'm not a fan of it as much. I think I need you to come figure out how to work, how to figure out the value of work, the value of a paycheck. And then potentially, but maybe that person offers you shares in that company. You know what I'm saying? So now you can build something bigger than either of you. So that's my unpopular hot take on entrepreneurship. Do not start your own business. Figure out how to work in that business. Learn the tricks of the trade from somebody who does it really well.
Before starting your own.
Yeah.
Okay, so last question before I wrap.
If you decide.
If I decide to
Yeah,
wrap.
exactly. I mean, it's your show.
Thank you. What is your favorite thing about being black?
I think it's, so the new Black Panther movie's coming out.
Yes.
And so I think as black people, I think we have, we're like the only people who have electricity that flows through our bodies.
I feel like that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No, that's what melanin is. It's a conductor of, and so I think that's super cool.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can essentially call me Static Shock. You know what I'm saying? If you want. So I think that it's a superpower.
Yeah.
I think being black is a superpower. Unfortunately, over time, us wanting to share with others and teach others, and I think we taught people, and those people, decided to oppress us.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
leverage what they learned.
Yeah. And so to be predators and to
Yeah.
prey upon us. But I think that, we are the people who have the access to the highest frequencies. I think we're the smartest people. We're the most adaptive. We're the most innovative. We're the most loving.
All that.
We're the most fun.
All that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more like what's not to love about, what is not my favorite thing about being black. And my not favorite thing about being black is that people of power want to oppress and control us.
Yes.
I think that I would say that. I think, being black is one of the coolest things that could happen. Shout out to my curl pattern, my Cubana energy, and all of the things that flow through. But like having rhythm, all of those. I think
So cool. Like being black is just so cool.
it is.
It's really nice.
Yes, it definitely is. And so one of my things is when I do interviews, I ask the interviewer a question.
Okay.
Yes, and so before we wrap.
What's your question?
Yeah, and so what is it that you're loving about where you are in your life right now?
What is it that I'm loving?
Loving about what's happening in your life right now.
I would say it's mental. I feel like I can do anything that I want.
Okay.
I feel like I'm in control.
Okay.
I feel like anything is possible.
Anything.
Anything.
Okay.
Absolutely anything is possible.
Okay. You know I'm an absolute
And
guy,
there
so I
have
mean,
so
is anything possible? Because I mean, you're not gonna become Shaquille O'Neal.
No, right.
You know what I'm saying?
Anything
Like,
that I want to happen.
okay. You feel like you have the power
Absolutely.
and the gifts and the
Absolutely.
skills
I
and
feel
the
like-
connectivity
Absolutely.
to actualize it.
Absolutely.
That's
And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is trying to hone in on that, because it does take practice.
Yeah.
Mentally, to kind of like keep that thought in the forefront. So I think for me, that is literally like knowing that I know that I can do anything, that I can create anything.
And when did you come into that space?
Maybe a month ago.
Oh.
Like very recently. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is happening right now, America.
Niche.
Yes. And so what was the catalyst for that? How did niche find?
Wait, what show is this?
It's called Finding Your Niche with Niche. Yeah, definitely.
No,
I mean, because I'm sure the people who love you and watch you,
Yeah.
they want to know, because you're talking to other people about these things.
Yeah.
They want to know, how did you come into
Okay,
it?
so like you, I graduated with a degree in mass comm.
Okay.
I've always been fascinated with communication. I've always been fascinated with what a conversation can do.
Okay.
And what communication can do and change.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And so I've always like wanted to be a part of that.
Okay.
Or wanted to be a catalyst or a facilitator
Okay.
of discussions that had rhetoric around positive change.
Okay.
And I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to people, because I think the greatest experience that you can have on earth is this human one.
Yeah.
This human interaction that we're having, and then we have the power to change and to change circumstances and things and stuff like
Okay.
that. And so I've always felt like the way that you get to figuring out what it is you're supposed to do is by the exploration of thinking and speaking.
Okay.
So you learn those things through communicating and through experiences of what you're supposed to do. And like you, I feel like everybody does have a calling. I feel like everybody does have potential to really do something to make connections that will, make the world a better place, right? We all want the world to be a better place. And so I feel like everybody has a calling.
Okay.
I feel like essentially everybody has a niche.
Okay.
And so it's my burden, which I think that's a good place to start if you already don't know your niche or you don't know your calling, is to start where your burden is. And
Okay.
My burden is that when people don't know that they can do something, or when people don't believe that they can do something, or that they don't want to do anything specific or significant with their life. And so I'm here to kind of change the trajectory of that train of thought
Okay.
through conversations like this, to
Okay.
get people to see like people like Static Shock.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, feel free to do that in post. Like, yes. Yeah.
Whoa, what just happened?
Right.
But yeah, so I love talking to people who kind of have learned that.
Okay.
That they have purpose and that they live life on purpose.
So
yeah.
I created this thing called the purpose algorithm.
Okay.
Because people talk about purpose, and I think that in certain ways and spaces, they're expecting the audible voice of God to be like, it is me, and
Yeah, do this.
you're supposed to be a therapist. Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's how God is
That
going to
would
talk
be
to you.
nice, though.
Right. I'm sure it would. And I think sometimes people are just in a stillness waiting on something like that to happen.
Yes.
But to me, I feel like I created this algorithm because I think it's much easier to discover purpose than people make it out to be, because they're waiting on some, again, this audible voice, or these signs that are going to come in some supernatural way. But to me, the algorithm I created was the purpose algorithm, and it's serving others plus your unique gifts, skills, and abilities equal your purpose.
Okay.
Like not a lot of hoopla.
Is it like an intersection of like that, like serving, and then at that
What
intersection?
your unique gifts, skills,
Right.
and abilities.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's your purpose.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think because people aren't thinking about serving others, that's why I think that's why we have so much loss.
Yeah.
We have so much darkness. We have so much anxiety. We have so much things because people aren't really thinking about how to serve themselves. It's people are more self-serving, and I think it's something that makes us devoid of a lot of things that we need, because people aren't as passionate, people aren't as purposeful, and I think that selfishness that comes from not being on those paths, I think it's the arch nemesis to love and to purpose.
Sure. I think that's brilliant. I think too. I think with purpose, it's kind of one of those things where to me it's like a loud whisper.
Mm-hmm.
I would describe it as like a loud whisper, where it's kind of like you know it, but you have to get quiet because
Okay.
it's subtle, but it's obvious. It's like a weird juxtaposition of like this thing that you kind of go through, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
I know I can do something, but it's like whether or not you want to answer. You know, whether or not you want to answer that call.
Kinda. I mean, because I think kinda.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think people have some level,
Mm-hmm.
but I also don't think people are tapped into their chorus. I don't think people are tapped into the
I
depths
don't
of
think
them
you have to be
to
tapped
hear.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's still there.
Well, in some ways.
Yeah.
But I think alignment is how you unlock it.
Oh,
And most
sure.
people aren't aligned, is what I mean.
Sure.
Most people aren't tapped into the third eye, into the depths of their consciousness to really hear. So, because that voice could get louder. It doesn't have to be a whisper.
Yeah.
If when you're in alignment,
Sure.
it's really more of a saying, and a being and a doing. Because,
Yeah.
a lot of doing is not as popular these days now either.
The
People.
idea of it
Yes.
is popular.
Yes, but the action of it, like
Yeah.
people aren't really about this action.
Right.
People are more verbal, more what I can post on Instagram. But like I don't think the world is going to change based on what you do on Instagram.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll unlock who you really are based on what's happening in the digital sphere. Like you may make money in the digital sphere, but will that be who you are? And the answer will be no.
That's good. Well, if people want to stay tapped into you
Okay.
and what you've got going on, and what you're doing, tell the people, Mr. Daniel Dickey, how they can reach out to you if they want, to have you, they want to do business with your agency.
Okay.
If they want to book you to sing. What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, so you guys can follow me on all social platforms here we go.
It's legit.
Yes, yes. And look,
Oh,
yes.
cheers. Thank you for coming on, too.
Thank you for having me. So you can follow me at Mr. Daniel Dickey on all social media platforms, and you can follow our agency at Resource Guild on all platforms.
There it is.
And there it is. So you'll find out, what I'm up to. I'll make you laugh. I'll make you try. I'll make you think, and I may invite you to some cool shit that where you can meet more cool people and get your situation a bit more highly situated.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. You're a rock star, man. You're a rock star. And a special shout out to our sponsor, Let's Face It, who does amazing things like life coaching. If you feel like you're in a place where you kind of want to pivot, you don't want to really know where you're going in life, and you're kind of at that intersection that we were speaking about, and you want to figure out what are my next steps, where do I need to go in life, definitely reach out to Let's Face It Life Coaching to figure out what your next steps will be so that you can face forward to move forward. Sir, I really commend you for all the things that you've been able to do and accomplish. You're just like literally one of my favorite people to even be associated with and to even know. So thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate the opportunity to, share your show with you. You know what I'm saying? Because
Thank you.
it is, in fact, your show. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just grateful to be had. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, there it is. Y'all heard it here first. Peace.